I'm getting used to this new lighting. I feel like I'm on a stage somewhere. We have hecklers now that we have new lighting. This is amazing. So today we would like to welcome Reverend Kathy Young to speak with us again. A reminder that she is one of our 2 finalists for our ministerial candidacy. And so this will be the final time that she speaks with us before we make our decision. So join me in giving a warm welcome to Reverend Kathy Young.
Thank you. Thank you. Maura, can I ask you to just be in charge of that, and I'll point at you when I'm going to need it again? Thank you very much. Wow, these are very bright lights. It's like, I have an illumination that you didn't see before last time I was here. No, that's fine, Eric. I was not blinded. I was just teasing. So before I begin my message, I just want to take a moment and just honor the leadership of this community. This has been a tough few days. It's been a tough few days. And the core council and the practitioners here have just come together to support Caroline, come together to support each other, come together to support the community, and come together in love. And we spent some time together yesterday, just in prayer and also in conversation about what would be most supportive when difficult things happen, as it has. We've lost a member, and that can be painful. And I got to tell you what, they did their work. They're here and fully prepared to support anybody who needs it today. So I'm just impressed. I'm really impressed, and I'm blessed by the consciousness that's here. I've said that before, but it was really evident the last couple of days. It was in action, it was applied, and the vision of this center to love and to stand in a place of love and be inclusive and stand in a place of inclusivity and know that oneness is what we are about. It's lived. It's not just a talk. So if this is your first time here, I invite you to get to know the folks that are this Center for Spiritual Living, because it's an awesome community. It's an awesome community. So Art did a fabulous job of reminding us that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience, and we're at choice every moment. And in this scenario where one of our dear ones, Valerie, has made a choice to continue on her path in a different way. And she's absolutely on that path. And our spiritual selves are not in any way confused, are they? We're not confused that the ongoingness of life is forever. We are so grateful that there is nothing that life can do but continue, just in different form. Even plain old Newtonian scientists believe that. Energy is the only thing that can't be changed. It can't be destroyed, it can only be changed. So life is ongoing. And we can rejoice with that, and we can rejoice that the freedom she was seeking is hers now. All those things are wonderful. And then we're also in a human body. So that means that we're going to have a human experience. And it would be really lovely if when things were difficult, we could flip that human experience off. But that is not the way we're wired, and that is not why we are God experiencing itself in this plane. So it's normal, it's completely normal to be having feelings of pain, of thoughts, of guilt, of what ifs, playing games that don't serve in terms of our emotions taking over, feeling very sad, having it come up at the weirdest times. All those things are completely normal. We can move into and be standing in a place of deep sadness and not at all be confused that there's joy present and there's life present at the same exact simultaneous time. Isn't that good? Isn't that good to know that we don't have to deny our feelings, we don't have to deny who we are, we don't have to in any way diminish any part of ourselves. Inclusion involves integrating the whole of us, our spiritual self, our emotional self, our physical self. So I just want you to know that if you are having difficulty, reach out. Reach out and ask for help. There's a lot of support for this community today. There are a number of centers that are holding us in consciousness. There are also a number of fabulous people here that are available to step up and support if you need it. In addition to the practitioners here and those on the core council that are holding consciousness. We also have a couple of other practitioners, and we have 4 additional ministers. So really, if something happens or you don't like the talk, raise your hand, because someone else can stand up and finish it for me, right? So I just want us to shift our attention to the noticing how much comfort there is in community, right? How much comfort there is in community. We come together not just for joy, not just for celebration, not just to feel good and get a little buzz on Sunday, although that's awesome, but that's not the only point, right? It's to deepen and to learn how to live principle in action. We come and we work together as a community for joy and during dark nights of the soul. Thank goodness not everybody moves in the same place at the same time. It would be really difficult if that were the case, but it's not true. There's always something available. My energy must just be huge today. Sorry. So our teaching is a teaching of oneness, of spiritual principle of expansion, of a life of good, of the universe being all good, all loving, all caring, and about how do we align with that. This is a practical teaching, isn't it? It's about how to align with the principle that we know, so that we're not walking off a roof and being surprised when we break our leg. We understand how principle works and we align with it, and that's an important thing. We can mistakenly think at times, because our cognition decides it's going to take over, that if we're not feeling joyous all the time, or we can't instantly drop into that space of knowing that we are all with all that is, or we have a day where we're annoyed with somebody, or we're grieving, or we've lost a job and we're scared, we can mistakenly think that we're not doing it right. We can think that we're not living the principles, that we are not walking the path. And I would like to invite us to consider to reframe our thinking and recognize, no, we're absolutely doing our work. It's a process. We live on this human earth with its ups and downs, with a world of contrast. The light is only visible by the shadow, right? And when there's shadow, we're aware there's light. All those things are true. But we can't ever do it by ourselves. We can't do it by ourselves. We do it in community, and that is the gift of a community, is we support each other when things are awesome, and we support each other when things are not so awesome, and we remind each other who we are when we forget, and we remind each other that God is, and we are. And that's it, right? So, we just bless Valerie on her continued path and know that she remains a part of this community in a different form, but she remains just as connected. She's part of the oneness, as we all are. And we bless ourselves, and we know that we are absolutely open to healing, and we're stepping into a deeper expression of exploring for us, what does it mean to be human and fully spiritual? So, Mark Nepo talks about in his book, 7,000 Ways to Listen, and if you don't know his work, I encourage you to get familiar with it. He's a fabulous poet and writer, and he's been through a lot of things in his own world, and he has some really fabulous insights. He shares what he learns and then he shares it. And he says, life is both storm and calm, and the challenge of living is how to use the calm to endure the storm, not to bypass it. When we can appreciate and recognize that there is a larger flow to life, it softens the circumstance and absorbs some of the pain, and also allows us to see possibility beyond, right? And this leads to a practice that he calls, I may not be saying this right, mudita. It's appreciative joy. So in the midst of anything, finding the opportunity to see where is the joy, where is life evident, because it always is. So going forward, in school we learned this about this one particular model of the life experience, which I think anybody who undertakes to create a model of philosophy around what life experience is really probably pretty smart, and also incredibly ambitious, because that just feels like a really big job to me. But this one particular reflexive arc talks about we come into the planet and we forget immediately who we are, right? Now we are no less life and we are no less soul than we are when we're in an adult body and we think we're enlightened. But we don't have, in the physical, the ability to do for ourselves. We don't have the cognitive thinking processes. We don't have language. So we're a little bit, we're needing other people to help us out here. So we come in, and then sometimes kids have like breakthrough memories, of what life was like, or what's really the bigger life. Have you ever noticed that? Some children have the ability to they say stuff and you're like, okay, Yoda, where'd you get that? Because they just know there's a deep consciousness and they're not afraid to express it and they're not unfamiliar with it. But as we go through life, life begins to take its toll and we begin to really get familiar with the density of this particular planet, and we're aware that we are present. And so this is real, even though they tell us that this is actually all movement and there's really nothing solid here at its essence. It feels real to us because the vibration here is so dense that things present themselves that way. And then pretty soon we get experiences with our families and our lives, and we have conditioning, and then all of a sudden we're all wadded up and now we think this is us. I am my job, I am my family, I am my house size, I am whatever. But at some point, something happens, and it happens differently, and it happens in different ways for everybody, but at some point when we hit that apex of that picture, a horseshoe almost, we start to wake up. And something in us starts to stir and gets our attention, and we start looking for meaning in new ways. And we start noticing that this isn't all there is, that there's something else here. And there's something within us that starts stirring, going, wow, all this achievement is awesome, and why do I feel hollow? What else am I looking for? We begin to start to search for that. And the remainder of our life, according to this model, is to follow that along until we then return to consciousness and remember what we were and go, wow, wasn't that a fun ride? Let's do it again. And that really, when you think about it, is a freaking huge transformation, isn't it? To come in, where you're totally aware, and then you come in, and then you're not aware, and then you think this is it, and then you find out it's not it, and then you move it, and then that's really a big transformation. It's a lifelong journey, isn't it? And so that gave me some pause to be thinking about what is transformation. And I'm really aware that every transformation is a series of small changes. No matter if it's an instant, ooh, look, that just changed. We hear about people who are an instant success. Wow, and then if you talk to them, it was like 45 years of training and working in the trenches, and nobody, they're just in the back cubicle, but now they're the CEO, and there you go, or whatever it is, they're a movie star or whatever. Our teaching activates that within us, and it also is part of the thing that excites us. The first time I heard change your thinking, change your life, I was like, really? Anybody else have that experience, that it felt like, really? I can have some, really? It's not happening to me? What? Tell me more about this. I want to learn about this. I want to take classes about this. And then I went right through the affirmation stage where just because I said it, it should happen because I was just all of a sudden so very powerful. The universe was going to bow to my will. And sometimes I could do it with parking spots, but I was not really able to do it in the bigger things of my life. And I was confused by that. And as I took the classes, I began to understand that change your thinking, change your life is the way we talk about it, but it's not just about changing our thinking or changing what we're saying. Change your thinking, change your life works because when we change our thoughts, thoughts direct our vibration. They create a vibration within us. The vibration directs our life energy. Our life energy works on and in accordance with spiritual principle. And the universe only says yes. So, where our thoughts are is going to drive where we vibrate. Where we vibrate is going to activate life energy in a focus. That life energy is now going to have to work in accordance with spiritual law, and the universe says yes. Might be a good idea to get conscious about how we're directing our energy. Unless you don't care. I personally care. I care what I want the universe to say yes to. And we get to do that individually, and we get to do it collectively. And there's a few small steps. My talk title today was One Small Change, and it has been one small change after another the last 4 or 5 days. And so I'm going to learn with you what we're actually going to hear about today. So we're just going to open and see what God has for us. Transformation, involves a series of small changes. And the first step is always willingness, to be willing. It's not enough to say we're going to change. Anybody ever decided you're going to go get fit and then you never go to the gym? Or we're going to go on a diet after this 5-week, thing of last foods, And it's really just about there's not a deep willingness. There's not a commitment to change. So we've got to be willing to change. We've got to be willing to go through the process of change. We have to be willing to engage with what it is that God is bringing forward in our life and what that impetus is for us to step into a new way of being. Changing the neural patterns in our neural pathways in our brains requires consciously doing something over and over again until it shifts and it makes a new synapse. Joe Dispenza has a lot of work about that. There are a number of people who do, and you can do it, but you can't do it just by hoping it happens, right? So we've got to be willing. The second step is to be mindful. So we have to notice, where is our attention? Where is our attention? Is it on possibility and or is it on limitation? Is it on all I have and how awesome life is? Do you know that everyone in this room is in the top 3% in the world of wealth? Sobering, isn't it? That doesn't always feel that way to me when I'm looking at the stuff I'd like to have and I don't have, you know? I think that we can make it whatever we want because both are true. Depending on where we're comparing, both are true. I remember a time, and I don't recall if I've shared it here before, but I remember a time where I was really focused on what wasn't working in my life, and I was really kind of hacked off at God because I wasn't getting the direction I thought I needed, and I really kind of thought I needed not only a plan so I could see what was coming up, but I needed the map. And I needed also to have the obstacles cleared ahead of time because that really would help me out in terms of making progress on this, spiritual path that I was on. And I was really triggered. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was super triggered. And I was having a full-on tantrum. And I went for a walk. And in the walk, I was like out loud talking to God. And I was just letting God know how it was and how, you cannot expect things of me and not give me the tools to do it with. And, it's just... Might have been a little arrogant, not sure, but so I was, I was going through this, and all of a sudden I heard this voice really loud just go, "That is enough." And I was talking out loud, and I was in a neighborhood, and I thought, "Oh dear, someone's in their yard. How embarrassing is this?" And I turned around and looked, and there was no one there. And when I turned back around to keep going, the landscape was gone. It was gone. Honestly, there was nothing there. The entire street was gone. The houses were gone. I was looking at a taupe. It was a taupe color, which is not a color I'm fond of. It was a taupe color landscape. And you would think that would get your attention. It made me madder. I was so committed to my story, and I was like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Do you see this kind of a thing? And I just ranted for a little bit further, and then I heard the same voice, but not with quite the get your attention edge, say, "Turn around." And so I turned around, whatever, and I turned around, and what I saw was this incredibly lush landscape as far as I could see. There were waterfalls, and there were lakes, and there were trees, and there were mountains. It was like the most beautiful place I could imagine. And it came right up to my heels, literally. Straight line as far as I could see, and then it stopped. And I could see footsteps, and I could see places where I had wandered near a cliff and had been redirected. And I could see places where I had jumped over things, and I could see things I had built and didn't know. It was amazing. I honestly have no idea how long I stood there. I was on a street corner in Castle Rock. I have no idea how long I stood there. And I got it. That for me, often direction comes by looking back. That's when I get the detail of the physical experience. But what I also got was that I am always perfectly guided, that everything I do is directed, and that God as me is having an experience that God as me wants to have. And my small mind doesn't get to drive the bus. I've never forgotten that. I can still feel it. I can still see it. It's amazing. It was the first hugely numinous experience that I had that really got my attention. And I was really clear in that moment that I was focused on everything I didn't have, and that was the issue. And I wasn't even in this teaching yet, but it's one of the things that led me to find this teaching, was knowing that there was something more, and that I didn't want to just focus on being cranky all the time. I can do that really well. I can be really cranky, and I just didn't want to do it all the time. So rather than focusing on achievement, are we focusing on joy? Thomas Aquinas says that joy is a human being's noblest act, and he calls it the birthplace of consciousness. Well, that's a little different than hearing achievement is our most noble act, or sacrifice is our most noble act. Joy is our most noble act. Imagine what it would be like if we created from joy. Descartes did the whole thinking. Descartesian thinking talks about the fact that the genesis of philosophy is doubt. But pre-modern times talked about the fact that the genesis of anything is wonder and joy. What would school be like if that's what we focused it on? What would our work choices look like if that's where we were focused? So the third step is to be present. Mark Nepo says, "I experience the moment with my heart and the future with my mind." And then I would add, I think that we also experience the past with our mind and our body, and our emotional self. So the moment is where the heart is. The heart is our portal into the divine. The heart is where we're able to dive in and find that part of us who knows who we are. That deeper part of us that is that same spirit in form. I can't touch that part without feeling grateful. I just can't. And gratitude is a causative energy. So that's the fourth step, is to be grateful. Now we can be grateful for things, or we can just activate gratitude. Just activate gratitude. And watch what it does for us in terms of its ability to soothe and to heal and to expand and to initiate ideas and thought and to connect. Meister Eckhart says, if the only prayer you ever said in your whole life was thank you, it would be enough. If that's the only thing we ever said from a really deep space was thank you, it would be enough. So I was driving the other day thinking about this talk, and I noticed I have on my dashboard one of the things that I picked up here at the center. Some of you may have them. It says, God is my source, and it reflects up on your windshield so that you are conscious. So I put that on my windshield, and I have it in my car when I travel. I often take it with me because I want to remember. It's a great time when I'm stuck in traffic. It's one of the times my snarky self likes to come out and play, and so it's much better to focus on that and go, God is my source. I will be there fine. I will be. So, but I just want you to notice for a moment in your own mind, what comes up when you hear God is my source? I just want you to think that to yourself, God is my source, and see what comes up for you. Frequently, we add of on the back of it. God is my source of abundance. God is my source of life. God is my source of financial freedom. God is my source of love. God is my source of connection, right? All these things. God is my source of safety. And all of those things are true. But what happens if we look beyond it? So let's just think of it again. God is my source. Now let's just look beyond that, past the things and the outcomes, and look into God as my source. And say it another way, I am sourced by God. All I am is God. My entire being is God. I got a visual of a spring in a really lush field coming up, and realized, wow. It's a deeper way of recognizing it's just the life force. It's a foundational belief, not foundational like we build buildings where we carve a hole and then we put in cement and we put in rebar and we do all these things and then it doesn't ever go anywhere. That's not the kind of foundation I'm talking about. I'm talking about essential. It's the thing that flows through and as everything. It's what gives animals water, and it's what causes plants to grow, and it's what feeds the air, and it's just everything. And that's, God is my source. God is your source. As individuals and as a community, God is our source. Thomas Aquinas also said, God is the only source without a source. I like that. God is the only source. It is not a source. If we are present to that truth, and we look beyond what we think we know, there's always something more. There's always a slightly deeper place we can go. There's always the ability for our inner self to open and expand and show us a little bit more of an experience, not so much a thought, but an experience of who we are, of what's possible, of what we're here to do, of the life and the joy that's available to us. And what's our unique contribution? How is Spirit as us showing up? Want to be a circus clown? Go for it. People like circus clowns. It's like, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? What are you here for? Because it's not really about the job title, it's about the essence that you're bringing. It's about the essence of experience and the contribution of consciousness that you are adding to the collective raising of consciousness on this planet. And our continual and ongoing and collective life experience. We're expansive. And it's simple. It's little changes that get us there. It's little things. So if you're comfortable, what I'd like to encourage you to do is close your eyes and just sit back in your chair and put your feet back on the floor and just take a deep breath. to breathe deeply and allow yourself just to settle into this now moment. And on your in-breath, I just want you to think to yourself, God is. So in-breath, God is. Out-breath, I am. In-breath, God is. Out-breath, I am. And just allow that pattern to continue. You'll find your own rhythm. God is, I am. And let this song become a prayer. It's like the air around me. It's like the sunlight on my face. I feel the love of God surround me. I am touched by amazing grace. And all I ever wanted, all I ever needed was already there. Closer than the sunlight, nearer than the air. I breathe in, and I am filled with the Spirit. It is health to my body, peace to my mind, joy, joy to my soul. And I breathe out a simple prayer of thank you. And my breath becomes a song that was singing all along, that is singing everywhere. It is nearer than the air. Keep breathing. I breathe in, and I am filled with the Spirit. It is health to my body, peace to my mind. It is joy, it is joy. Joy to my soul. And I breathe out my simple prayer of thank you. Thank you. And my breath becomes a song that was singing all along, that is singing everywhere. It is nearer than the air. It's like the air around us. It's like the sunlight on our face. around us. We are touched by amazing grace. All we ever wanted and all we ever needed is already there. Closer than the sunlight, nearer than the air. God is, I am. We are. And so it is.